Well, I got back a little early. Ended up playing a game of Twilight Imperium 3. And yeah, it's every bit as bad as I remembered it being. Which, yeah, it's just this really obnoxious melding of Euro and and AT style of game that kind of fails at both. I like my Euros clean and... I like both clean and kind of not filled with lots of crap you got to pay attention to. TI is not the case with that, but beyond that, yeah, whatever. Anyway, on to this. What is there to do? Well, the problem is you've got this sort of standard situation, and I'm sure that there's book opening for it. I don't know what those come out to be. What I've looked online, kind of accidentally, is that these little tokens tend to be a little undervalued. The payout that they make is less than these things tend to make. And then their final game payout is also not necessarily very high. That doesn't mean you don't take them. It means that you evaluate their, worth along with other things. So if we hook up to a railway town with the black outline, it's going to be based on the station. So we can't just shoot over here and get a bonus. It's not based on the shares. In which case, all right, there's no obvious, real easy choice here. And it's kind of tough to decide, what do you want to do? Let's see where you're not allowed to place stations. That's probably the key here. Not adjacent to, cannot be placed on town, cities, or tracks, nor adjacent to locomotives or existing stations. So, I mean, I could set one up somewhere here and move partway there. What does that do me? I don't know. Because it has to actually go through to give you the score. I think this is likely to come forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a station there. I'm going to send the chew up this way. Doesn't lay any track yet, but it does give me the ability now to veto. So now I control this chew. Somebody tries to move it that way, I say, no, you're going this way. And that gives me something right off the bat. All right, let me pause to light up again, and let's go to the next bar. Is when I hit into here, if that happens, as long as nobody else does it, I will get an immediate $1,000 for each of these, which is $2,000, because I have the most stations at that point. I believe that counts as on the line. They define that. It's not entirely stated there, but I believe they count as on the line if the choo-choo is there. So that's kind of a safe move. And I mean, it's just gathering points. It's not like it's getting me, it's not like the money is any kind of engine that I can use. Which means maybe other people want to do something kind of similar, right? Oh no, it's when we hit a railway town. Oh shit, maybe I don't want to do this. Yeah, we'd have to hit a railway town, but this is still valuable. But now, hey, I could gain something of use here, which is when I connect it to the city as the next player, I will get money. So I'll take one of these. I'll have the majority of the tokens. I'll move the chew here. The only guy who can compete. Basically, I made an offer, I guess, by where I placed it. The only guy who can compete has just, who can veto, has just essentially wants me to go there anyway. And I've connected this up, so I get $2,000. Now, he doesn't get any. He could have instead of playing his victory space, his station there, he could have grabbed one of these and moved forward and gotten a split of this of 1,500 each. The only problem is these things only go to thousands, so you'd round down. Getting the station may be more valuable at the offer of, hey, you want a couple of victory points. Well, that worked pretty well for the player who initiated it. So maybe black wants to do something similar. Why not? I like blue. We'll run some track down there and see if that works as well. Now, of course, maybe we don't want to do that. Now this is triggered already. Green will never cause this to create more money. However, I could get more shares of green and lay a couple of track and hook up one of these. That would be a bonus, though, for the guy who has the station there. With a bunch of people working on green, maybe it's to my advantage to try to make green better. Maybe. Who knows? I believe that's the case. I'm not going to work with him. He made the offer too. Instead, I'm going to chug into there. And that drops a railway there. And we're back around. Yep. Everybody's got a green stock. Everybody's got some interest in it. Now, here, this would now be worth the victory point space, the colored town, and that. It will be worth $3,000 plus $1,500, $4,500. We would split that. We'd each get $2,000. That's not bad. Of course, if I do this, I can force somebody to pay, and I could get all of it. That sounds kind of appealing, and I could actually take all of the cash for that very easily. This guy's an idiot. We're going to do that. We're going to try to move into here. He doesn't really give a shit. He might want to veto. He does. He'll spend his one. Oh, he already moved, so he has two. He could overbid for two. I believe that's how it works. Let me just make sure. Right let me make sure. I probably explained the rules incorrectly. The vetoing player, if he's the moving player, only has to match. So for one, I can ensure that this goes here, skips him by. That's why I said he's an idiot. And he gets the full value, which is $3,000, $4,500. It's $4,000. Always round down. There are no 500s. I don't know. Okay. What about brown? Well, brown played in this, has shares of it. What does he care? It's a good question. He sees the same advantage here. I'll take a bearskin. I'll make that same deal the other player did. He has no objection. We get a blue share. We hooked this up, which means we get, I screwed up here. He should have had $3,000 for the first one, and he gets $3,000 again, so he should be at 6 total. By being the only person doing that, he's kind of getting an advantage. This guy, he's fine. What would he like to do? Do number of stations matter? Number of stations are not a victory point thing. It's just the guy with the most stations on a railway gets an advantage. So as long as I have the majority, I don't really have to worry too much. I see little reason not to set the same thing up and just keep building the track that I'm happy with. I'll move forward. I get my blue card first. He doesn't really care. So this gets laid. And I've dropped, well, now wait a minute, maybe I don't care. How about I don't do that? I like the idea of expanding my line though. That's not a bad thing. Let me think about this. Of course, I could set up another line and get shares in something else. Right now, I've got the only station here. That's kind of an important thing. So, yeah, I could hit here. That would give me money. And that's why we wanted to do this. We go up here. He doesn't want to spend his share for that. This comes in. We get the curve. We didn't want to do the other. There's no reason to grab another station. And now we're hooked up. This is one of the blackout lines. We get that same 3,000, 4,000 bucks that player one got. And for pretty much the same reasons. And now we're on player 4, who still hasn't generated any cash. His railway has been missed. He can't turn it that far. He's depressed. What happens if I get a station? Well, if everybody's working on it, that's a good thing, and I move it forward. I get a green track. Does anybody really care? He's going to have the opportunity to grab money for being the most into reading. And he's not thrilled with this. But on the other hand, he's not sure it's the most terrible thing in the world. It may not be worth spending a share for in a company that everybody's kind of working on. So we'll let him do that. Come back over here. Take barrels because cogs somebody's already in. We'll drive the rail into there. Gives us a second one. He probably wants to veto this. He's only got one share. This guy would have to go to 2. He says, no, I'm not willing to do that. We're probably going to hit reading one way or another anyhow, and you know, my little station will be available to me. Which leaves it up to him to deny. Well, clearly if it goes this way, that's fine, but he'd rather deny it in both directions. So I'm going to throw one away to ensure that it goes precisely where I wanted it to. That gets us like this. Some money is gained. We just ran into one of these thingies, which is, I get $3,000. And that's all fine and dandy. However, I did have to spend one of my shares for it. Pause for a bit. Well, this little mechanism has been working pretty well. Let's see if we can get it to work. We chug into here. Now the problem is there's so many people involved in this line. Does anybody really care about this space? He doesn't. Neither one of these guys wants it going in here. But because blue's the next player, blue will be able to get the advantage off of this, grab some quick cash, and that's great. On the other hand, blue's got a couple of shares of this. He might want to expand it. But let's see. He's not going to bid 2 against it. He feels a certain happiness with his company, and might just bid 1 against it. Basically, either one could shift it up there, and that would do some good things. He's going to do that. He's going to bid 1 in order to say, I want to go there. He doesn't like that. Does he want to bid 1 to prevent that, or not? It's iffy whether or not this station will get used. I think the share, I think the share is worth, but then, oh, geez. Yeah, I think I got to spend the share in order to ensure. Did I get that there? And that goes in. That puts it on blue. Blue's like, wow, maybe. There are bearskins out, but there are no tongues out. I'll take a tongue. I'll be moving it forward. And how does Green feel about this? He doesn't particularly like it. He could bid 1 to prevent this, or 2. He's the only person who could actually absolutely stop this from happening. If he does, he'd be splitting the cash with Green. Green has already tried to bid. I think I'm going to prevent this. I think I don't want this happening. And I'm just going to bid the 2 and prevent it outright. Probably dangerous and stupid, but we're pretty sure blue would do it. If not, now we've hooked up to there. That means we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities, which makes it worth $5,000 plus 2,500, so 7,500 split between the 2 people who have the most stations. So we each get 3,000. Now, I had to give up 2 shares to get this, and I'm kind of in last place here, but it seemed worthwhile because it was the only way that I would get any money or any victory points at this moment. And I'm denying him a position. And that's going to put the action over here. Take a little rest. Boy, I realize I've forgotten to hand out passenger tokens. Let's catch who did them. Green set this up and Brown grabbed that one. Over here, White set one up. I think Green grabbed one. There. And then the other station that got entered was Black's. Now, White did not take that. Since there's only a couple of track lays out, that had to have been taken by him. So that's a couple of those tokens. I'm trying to figure out what Green wants to do. They could kind of set up, hey, move this here, and that opens up a couple of options for them in terms of, okay, what they could do is they could, drop this here and move this here. That sets up some options, but somebody else could just drive it over there. And this railway starts to become a little bit iffy in terms of what it could possibly add to the world. So I think I'd like to try to ram another railroad into it, to tell you the truth. And the Orange Railway looks the easiest of these. I got a few choices of how I can go about this. I can follow kind of the standard procedure. I don't have an easy way to get another station here is what my problem is. if I go this way, I leave that too many options thing. So I'm going to drop one here and send the shoe into there. Get myself an orange. And leave, the option to get cool stuff up to the brown player. Now the brown player doesn't have as good an option as is usually available though, because green already has one of these. So this would be maybe a split. It's only $1,000 each. That's less appealing. Maybe I need to start looking at doing things for myself. And here I can actually do that. I could, of course, run down here and start giving money to this railroad, but getting my own station into play. I think see, I've been paying so much attention to this little sucker, I forgot to look at the rules here. When a player moves a loco to somebody else's station, they get the passenger marker. You don't get it if you move it to your own station. And I'm honestly not sure. Yeah, see, here I'd be moving this way. I'm not sure it's terribly to my interest, but it is a way for me to grab some quick cash in terms of hooking that city up. I could get some quick money that way, or I could start, a railway of my own and try to get a station hooked up there, or maybe run the blue train, but that's hard to get to a station. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem wise. There's 2 barrels and a tongue. I don't know. Let me back off and try to think a little bit more, because I'm really having trouble. Went out dancing last night, and this early in the morning is always tough on me, but I'm going to follow kind of the standard pattern that we've been seeing in this game and get ourselves a track. It's just a matter of, I kind of don't like doing it because I've got a decent amount of tokens, more than other people, and I don't really want to be offering them that same deal. I kind of like collecting tokens. I could, of course, just be doing this. You know what? I think I'm going to collect tokens instead. Get that back. What happens if instead I grab a barrel token and move here with the green railway? I don't think anybody cares enough to prevent that from happening. And now I've got the majority again in the things, so I get my $3,000. There, over here, black. Black's got a couple of blues. I don't necessarily need it. I didn't give him a green. I don't necessarily need more blues, but it doesn't necessarily hurt either. It just doesn't really have anywhere it wants to go. I don't feel like I'm really doing that token race as heavily as other people. So getting established on another railway might be of worth. Who's been laying these track and not taking? Like, somebody's got to have one, right? How did this thing get built? Is this a sample track that I laid? I don't think anybody actually ran this. I think this is some kind of sample track. Because, I mean, and there's no house there. Why would somebody lay that? They'd get no money. Yeah. Which means that's of some interest. On the other hand, I'd like to have something closer in here. I don't really have enough shares to kind of guarantee that if I do something like this, somebody else might not run up there, so that doesn't sound terribly valuable. What I do have is the capacity. I think the red line gets me the closest in terms of setting up properly. Like again, this guy, if he moves here, someone can go into either of those spaces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop a black square here, and then I'm going to go into there and get myself another company. No shares over here. I got this company. I don't see a lot of good opportunities here. I could grab a tie here to get $1,000. Yeah. Yeah. I like the offers. This looks like not a bad one. But again, no, it sets it in the wrong place. I got to do it here in order to set it up so somebody would have to go there. Same thing with this. Okay, it looks like that can be done everywhere. Which one? Which railway would help me? Yeah, so I could do it up with this one. But no, I can't turn it far enough. That's the problem with the railways that are already started. I can take the offer. I mean, cogs and barrels. Less people have cogs. I'll move this into here. The guy who just played it has absolutely no problem with me doing that. So I get $3,000. Money. Paper money. Gotten kind of unused to it. And I could have done this one too. Oh well. And that puts these like this. And that was once around. I think I'm going to come back later when I feel a little bit more engaged in, I don't know, playing. I had trouble bringing my way up here, but I hate to start work an hour early for no good reason. Well, the green player is finding nobody wanted his offer there because he's already got one of these suckers, which is an interesting situation. I could ram this thing right into the green trick, and that does not seem like a bad idea at this point in the game. So I am going to move here. No one else has any. I don't get a passenger for this because it's my own. And I did connect, though, to one of these suckers. No, to one of these, which means I get the $3,000 because nobody else has any. I could have grabbed some of those already. You know, I could have grabbed another token or something just because I know it's hooked up. But there's no reason. I'm getting the immediate money. Later on, those tokens, somebody might grab them or something towards the end of the game because they're in a race for the token lead or something. But now, the other thing we're going to do, nope, we got an orange, is, and this kind of sucks because I'm going to get an extra share this way. So you know what? I'm going to actually chew here instead because that's going to make this a more valuable railway if I hit this town. Because if I rammed right in, I would only get to exchange 2 of my shares for a green share. As it stands, and I'd lose a share. As it stands, maybe I can get a 4th share, and I get another payout, which is always cool. This payout is hitting a gray town, so we're going to get 1, 2, 3. This one. 1, 2, 3 times I think 1,500, so 3,000, 4,000 more bucks. That goes there. That puts us onto this player, and I'm gonna kind of back away. I'm not finding this exciting to play on camera. I was pretty excited when I first started, but now I just don't feel like doing the thinking on camera that much. So I may back away a little bit and just play it out rather than go into all the details. I don't know why. It's really not doing it for me today. Brown went ahead, offered to black, hey, you want this, get your money. $3,000 goes into his pocket. And the thing we've been seeing all along, and the green line. The problem with the green line is a lot of people can interfere with it. So this guy could have jumped in and done something, but he's spent a lot of shares already. Shares can be worth something. Of course, he may not be able to get the, you know, in the top 2 of the shares because he's already expended some, which means his shares in green become almost valueless except to shoot down other people's shares, in which case his might become valuable. He didn't choose to do so though here. It's still fairly early in the game. Green's probably going to be around for a while. And if he can get 2 of them, he can get something kind of cool. We've also got 3 people sharing this track so far. So he may want to make the offer. The problem with that is that's an offer, well, he's handing it to him. And he doesn't have to take a token to take the offer. However, he could take the offer in other ways. So if it goes here and put the station here, well, he could go doon doon and avoid that player's station. So it becomes a little iffy. But before we get to that, I got to take this guy's turn. And again, I need to do so much thinking in this game that I really can't do it on video. Right now, the only thing that's really driving this game is this little trick that I've got, which is place the station, move the train to where it has to hit that station in order to give you the points if you go there. You get the chit for the station, you get the passenger chit. The 2 between them become kind of interesting. This helps develop out which railways people are interested in terms of what stations they have, what stocks they have, and what they want to do with those trains. But it doesn't, you know, so far I don't see, I guess this one can still do that. And I've got an interest in ramming this in, which I probably want to do now while I have an even number of shares. What else would I want to do though? Is there some other action that I'd like to do? Oh no, green just went, green took advantage of this, so they ignored that. So now I'm over here. I don't know why I call it, yeah. I'm over here with brown, and I don't know what he's doing. Again, I can make this offer, but that offer is less valuable because I'll be splitting it with me. Of course, there's not very many passengers left. This offer is more valuable, but maybe somebody decides not to make the passenger run work. They probably aren't going to ignore it completely. There's no real reason to judge one person over another. Who's kind of doing well? That might be a reason. And I would say stations that are aligned with companies kind of count. So green has 2 stations, black has 2 stations, white has 2 stations. Brown does not have 2. So they're kind of in the worst position. So probably nobody's going to screw them over terribly. Someone, you know, if I put here, someone's probably interested in getting that passenger token enough to actually give me the edge on it. That's what I could hope. But I don't know. I mean, will they? Green won't be interested because then I'll be bigger than green. Black might not give a shit though. And that might be the thinking that I'm doing here. So if I can find my die I have kicking around here, or had kicking around here, I'll decide whether or not I want to go for this or go for the more likely to be followed track. I'm going to go for this and try to move the green track here. Now, this is where things get iffy. First of all, I get a green track, a green rail. The question is, does anybody care to veto it? Now, this guy really doesn't mind. I mean, no matter what, he can move up and get his share. Or he could grab 2 of these as both his actions and make it so when this guy takes it into the brown, I get an immediate payoff, which, given that I'm behind in the passengers, maybe makes sense. Or I could go set up something on my own or run one of my rails. You know, I kind of like the idea of the 2 tokens, but I only get $1,000 for that. So how do these match me? These are 2 barrels. Nobody else has 2 barrels, so I might get the majority in the barrels. Just running this here doesn't make sense, and he'd trump me. Now, him trumping me might be fine. I don't know. Decided to establish another railway, and White said, hey, yeah, I'll take it. Not so sure how valuable it is. Some extra money. This thing's probably not too valuable. A single barrel. 2 other players have barrels, but I might get the majority in it somehow. So, you know, a few points, a share, whatever. You know, a whole bunch of different things that might all work out to my best advantage. It might as well. And now we're back on green, who I think actually wants to hook up the orange. The question is whether those 2-for-1s are terribly valuable. I don't think they are. So let me see. Do I have anything that's just being offered to me? I don't. I don't know what to do. I think what I'm going to probably do is slap down one of these or possibly grab a token from somewhere. I grabbed a token from here. I'm going to get my $1,000 and I'm going to take the offer. However, he obviously doesn't mind. But he's not sure he wants this to happen. This is making it so green will probably run into blue. I would rather not have that happen. I want to make that as hard as possible. So I'm going to bid 2 to prevent it. Now he has the option to bid 2 to allow brown to hook up like that, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let him spend his 2 and run it into there. That doesn't make it impossible for Brown to get it out, but it does kind of dick things over. I still get my share for having moved it. I got that beforehand, and I get the token that I picked. And I just don't get any bonus off of it. And actually, the only place this can go is up this way, which is likely to get it a chance to slam into blue again. However, that's what he did not want to have happen. He's not seeing those 2 shares as being terribly likely for him to use. Other people are going to get ahead. So this guy's going to get his oranges into there. This guy's already got a bunch of shares. I'm going to not be moving green, so I might as well throw my shares if I'm not going to be in the top 2. Into a bit of a problem, largely because of this thing. Connecting to a railway town to a railway line to a railway town. Black outline. Well, these, when I played where we were using the English rules, these are clearly railway towns. The question is, are these? They have a black outline around them too. Couldn't find any indication in here. My German is not good enough, if existent at all, to be able to try to translate and find, you know, railway town and see if it's defined. There's no image that gives you anything like a map key or anything. There's nothing on the map. There's nothing in the rule book. I ended up finding the English rules online, and I think we played it right, and I am playing it right, which is to say that you don't score anything for running by one of these line starting locations. There's differentiation between railway town and starting town, I guess. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's what it seems to be. So that cost me a good 15 minutes of my life, though, to go look that up. One of the disadvantages of using translated rules. However, the game should have a map key. I mean, if I saw in German a differentiation between this and that, I could kind of look to see, is that a starting railway town or whatever? And I'm still left with kind of a, I'm not sure if that's what was intended, especially since this has the black outline. Because this is a popular game, the files section on BGG is impossible. You know, it's several hundred not files, the questions. There's several hundred different threads there. You know, it's as hard to find things on BGG on popular games as it is to find things on CSW in general. Basically, your only option is either ask again, make up the rules, or whatever. Anyway, we'll get back to this guy's turn and try to figure out what the hell he wants to do. But he had a different option, you know, if he wanted to try to score this or something, there would be, I don't know if that was, but I can't even remember what was driving my decision making, but, you know, something like this becomes of interest to score to someone. We've got a couple of players running their own situation, him hooking up to his brown track. White didn't want to throw away one of his only share in the company in order to prevent Brown from getting a station there. And likewise, Black ran his own track with the red, and again, White chose not to throw away his share. Very little reason here, but Black got to score it. This one would have been a little bit more interesting because I had control, and now it's a split company. I ended up shooting this train down towards their station, hoping to get it all hooked up. Black's not going to expend their shares on it. If it's going to crash, he wants shares. He may actually want to grab another couple or something. He can always try to do it this way, force him to drop shares. Whoever gets the jump on that gets kind of an advantage. So, or you might want to grab a token here and try to move here. But speaking of that, green is very interested in that, either getting some red shares so that when it does crash in, he gets more green, but also getting this. Now here's the problem. If I do this, I'm going to only have one share. Either of these guys can prevent it. Now he probably doesn't give a shit, but he's probably willing to spend two shares. Maybe not. But this station is very, very important that he get there. So, you know, if I do a turn like this, well, then right away I want to send it there, or maybe even there. Problem is I send it here and it may crash into here and I still don't get my station. I send it here, it may head that way and I don't get my station. So no matter what, I may be wasting my shares. The question is whether green wants to say take a token and try to score that token that they're almost certainly not going to score, or just smash it in and avoid the token, but then I'm not really gaining anything. Yeah, I'm having a very hard time. So I have one action here. I'm having a hard time finding anywhere else I want to get anything. I mean, I could start grabbing me some yellow track, you know. Problem with this, I do this. If somebody connects it up, they can basically assure themselves that they'll get their station into play. So I don't want to do that. There just really aren't a lot of good options here right now other than moving this. If I'm not careful, if I put this here, it's possible that I might have to lose tokens in order to, or lose shares in order to connect up here. So I don't particularly want to try going the long way or anything to try to get an extra point. So I don't know what I'm doing. You say that's obvious. I might just want to throw a station down somewhere kind of in the center of the board. This is kind of a go-like operation, somewhere where it may be of some value. Something like here looks pretty valuable to me, actually. I see a couple of trains that might be heading through there to these guys. I don't see a whole lot else, because this is dead, so that's just one company. So yeah, I think I'll do that. I think I'll, where do I want to put the station? You know, if I put it down here, maybe red will get to use it, but I think red's going to be slamming into there. So I'll put it here. That's kind of an interesting location. And then I'll crush this in, and nobody else has any oranges. So I get my share, and we get our payout, which this is the destruction of a company. Well, this company is only worth 1, 2, 3. Get this here. Which means it's worth 4,000 to me. And then my shares turn into green shares. And orange goes away, which means we start getting towards that game end condition, which is wiping all but one company's shares out. I started setting up the blue line so that they can maybe hit that station, slam it into green at the same time, all kind of good stuff there, right? Well, that puts it on black, who's been running blue. Black's like, I already have that station. Doing this is advantageous to me because I'm going to get rid of some of his shares for it. How many I want to get rid of, you know, what I'm willing to do is a good question. But he really wants this to hit his station. So, I mean, he can bid 3. It still doesn't guarantee that it won't hit his station. But he could also instead, you know, bid a smaller amount depending on what he's willing to expend. He's not sure how much black's willing to give up. But these are valuable. They're going to turn into greens. Greens are going to be worth a shitload at the end of the game. If they're probably not going to run into anything. The plan had been to run them into blue, but that looked difficult. They're kind of jammed in a corner here where they're not isolated, but they're pretty close. They've got to curve around this way to get to anything. You're not allowed. You're only allowed to build track off your chew. So that's pretty important to me. I'm not sure how important it is to him to avoid hitting my space. You know, it shouldn't be that big a deal. So I think I'll bid 1 to try to veto this. And that's the question. Is it worth one to keep it out of Brown's hands? Why would I want Brown to get that? I'm going to spend the one in order to trump in. And that gets me this. Unfortunately, now I only have 2 of these left, which means moving another space may not be the best thing, but I can always move here. Which then gives him the option to get another share when he rams in. So it's not really dicking him over this time. So, and you can see some of the players are just failing with their stations, basically. Others seem to be doing well. And I felt that way when I was playing. Was sometimes, you know, I don't remember what it was exactly, but some players had to work a lot harder to get their stations to work. And I don't know why. It's like there are just positions that are better than others to give the offer to or whatever. So anyway, we just hit here, and that gives us the $3,000. And then we got to decide what our next move is. And I think we know what it is. I think it's to try to turn here. Now he doesn't want to spend another thing. Although it might not hurt, but this makes our holding more valuable. So we'll let him do that one. And that creates some money for him though. And that's kind of the problem. That's going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 7,000 more, which is a fairly good turnover of money. It's in this weird position. If I go right here, or I'm sorry, white. If I go right here, I just score points for a black player. So I want to get into this station at the same time, which means maybe I want to go here. But black really kind of doesn't necessarily want me to go there. However, they can bid one to prevent me from going there and try to go somewhere else, which might even be here. And if I pay that and trump in, then they control whether or not I hit this, which is kind of important too. I think I have to do it. I have to try to get my station into play. Black definitely doesn't want that to happen. They would be much, much happier going here, scoring, you know, some money, getting themselves in a position where who knows where they're going to go. How much are they willing? Well, if white's doing this, they get a share. How big a deal is it to me? I think it's worth 2. And red, knowing they're going here, is going to pay that 2. I'm not going to be happy. I think no matter what the circumstances say, we're not going to be happy. Now, what does black want to do? Well, the problem here is if I run into here, then white gets an added station. We'd rather not see that happen. How big a deal are the shares to us? Well, we're not really interested in green, and it looks like white is going to crash this sucker into green. So maybe we just don't want that to happen. Maybe we really don't want that to happen. So white's going to be announcing this move, and that gives to them another token or another card. And now we tell them, well, you know what? I think it's worth all 3 to us that you don't get in there. And getting the station hooked up is worth quite a bit. It sucks to spend 3 though, because I'm not going to get anything for running into here. Now, how much would I be getting? I'd be getting 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd be getting $2,000. So throwing those shares away is worth $2,000 plus whatever happens. I'm not sure, because what black's going to be doing is heading me up here. They don't even want the collision particularly. I mean, maybe they do. They got another rail there. The advantage of going here is that I can keep this rail line going. Maybe it slams into something else, which is just as big and just as valuable. It takes a lot more track lays. I don't know. Am I willing to pay 3 for that station? Because I'm not getting that station otherwise. Yeah. So I trump it. And I crash in. And that's going to be some big money. First things first. 1, 2, 3, 4. We both have a station, so it's split now. So it's 4,000, 6,000. We each get 3,000 for that. But only one person has shares, which means, what did I say, 6,000? He gets an extra 6,000. So he gets some big money there for hooking up. And white gets only the 3,000. This is hooked. Red is destroyed. That becomes a green share. Isn't terribly useful to us. Another railway goes away. And I get to lay some track to indicate the connection there. And things are beginning to disappear. So we'll be done with this soon, I hope. I guess this is a good time to load up. Halfway through probably. And the video is long enough.